Okay, without further ado.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for having me and for being here. Yeah. So I'm Jermy Uowolo. This is actually will be my a precursor to my defense for my MA thesis. And so part of my talk today, I'll begin with some of the themes of my thesis, and then kind of touch on some of the projects that I've been involved with, and one that I'm currently working with as part of my thesis as well. And so to begin, the title of my talk is Rematau People of the Sea. I am a Rematau. Rematau are these, we are the indigenous inhabitants of the small low-lying atolls and islands in Yap State of the Federated States of Micronesia. And so if you see the code up here, if I have courage, it is because I have faith in the knowledge of my ancestors. Mauperu was a Rematau. He's from the island of Sarawak, and I am from the island of Fais. What's going on? It's not moving. Is there the battery died or something?
Maybe the battery got this, but if not,
Yeah.
you can hit the.
Well, excuse me. Oh, there you go. It's working.
Oh, I got it.
Working.
Okay.
And so to begin, I want to kind of provide a little prehistory and history about the islands of the outer islands of Yap. And the map here shows the pre-contact settlement of Yap and the outer islands in relation to the settlements and the patterns of settlements in the broader Micronesia. And as you can see, number one is the migration of Guam, colonization, the pre-contact colonization of Guam, which starts with from 35 to 40, 4,000 years ago, BP, before present. Settlement of Palau, 3,000 to 35,000 years ago. And the settlement of Yap Island is from the Bismarck Archipelago. The settlement of Palau is within the Indonesia and Philippines, and the Guam is within the Philippines and the Southeast Asia region. The settlement of the East Carolina Islands, which is coming from parts of Solomon Islands to present-day Solomon Islands. And they initially targeted the high volcanic islands of Kosrae, Pohnpei, Chuk, and also through the Marshall Islands. And then from there, coming down to where we call today the outer islands of Yap. And that's where the home of my home and the people what we call the Rematau. And then there's also this migration from the Polynesian region coming into what we today Kapingamarangi, Nukoro, and parts of the Kiribati. And so just to give you a picture of the islands in Micronesia are also influenced by all the regions around the Pacific. And this is the outer islands of Yap. Within these here, these are 15 low-lying atolls on parts of the Yap state. Sarawak to the farthest to the east, and Ngulu and Ulithi close to the Yap, what we also call Uab, or to the west. And so this makes Yap State the westernmost of the Federated States of Micronesian states, which made up of Yap, Chuk, Pohnpei, and Kosrae. And this is my island of Fais, middle of nowhere. The Fais, according to legend, Motitig is our Maui. It was fished out from the bottom of the ocean. And interesting fact, Hawai'i is the closest landmass to the Challenger Deep, which is the deepest part of the ocean floor, of the Earth ocean floor by the Marianas Trench. And it's 1 square mile with about 300 or 350 people that live on today, including my mom and my 2 brothers who still live there, and the rest of my uncles and aunties. The last time I was there is 2023. And so for the topic of my talk is how do we use traditional knowledge to enhance community resilience. And this is not the one, this is one of the ways. And for our community as Pacific Islanders, cultural values, knowledge are the guiding that guide our stewardship of our lands and our oceans. Having cultural values such as hasero. Hasero means respect. Hovek means the solidarity and unity. Hamal means to care for or to steward, which is the same concept as the malamo within the Hawaiian term. Hailang is the family clans that are spread across these island chain in the outer islands. And then Habon Fav is this concept of intergenerational transferring of knowledge. And then in knowledge, we could look at Palu, which is the navigation. It's the navigation and voyaging of, when you consider, as I mentioned and show on the map, these islands are like about 50, 60 to over 100 miles apart, 200 miles apart. And then the way these are connected is through the knowledge of navigation that connects people from island to island. And also in terms of, in my project, I'm looking at post-disaster resilience. And with the resilience of these islands there's connectivity, is connecting by, in terms of resources and in terms of the family clans that I mentioned earlier. And I also talk about the food system. The food system on the islands is one of the, in these small islands, there's not too high biodiversity of plants and things, but it's the way they've developed and knowledge about, for coconuts, for example, you can use every part of the coconut. And being able to maximize one plant, whether it's a coconut or the ulu, the may, you're able to make different ways of dishes. You're able to use the leaf from the youngest leaf of the breadfruit to the youngest roots of the breadfruit is used for something, whether it's food or medicines. And then Uowolo is the seasonal and ecosystem understanding of the cycle of the season, understanding the connection between ecosystems and the weather patterns and the changing of the seasons year round. And Yoral Tath Mafeli is the environmental knowledge. And that helps you to understand what's in terms of the weather and climate changes. And Tamol is the leadership. And then all of these kind of go toward the stewardship practices. And I put here resource, network, system, preparation, and post-impact. These are kind of the themes that comes within my research and looking at post-disaster resilience, stewardship of resources, and this network system connecting islands, and preparation, the different ways of preparing for typhoons. They're not just the immediate preparation of approaching typhoons or other disasters, but the constant preparation of whether your gardens or making sure your trees are healthy, make sure that everything is well. So it helps to have those prepared rather than not. So there are, we're taught, when growing up, I'm taught not to just go around and cut down any trees without any permission. Because trees, especially coconut, ulu, and noni, and all of these things that we know here, they have biological relationship with our community that's important. You don't go around and destroy them for no reasons. And those are part of the preparations. And the post-impact is, after typhoon, there's certain actions, certain ways that you try to help the community and also involve these values. Goes back to these values are important in making sure the communities are together, are thinking as one and are respecting the each other and the environment. So Kolfariat's value system. This is pretty recent. Was just the birthday of the Hokulea. That was 50 years ago. And this is Mao's family presenting a gift to the Nainoa and rest of and for Hawaii, and actually Hawaiians and for the Polynesian people. And here I put this because this is part of what we say hasuro, respect, hofak, hamal, hailang. It's all about all of these values coming together in this photo, kind of that our beliefs, that our cultural values are not just within our community, but it's across the Pacific and other all communities. This is in times of hardship. This is what keeps communities together. This is the values you grew up with. That you don't just, abandon your family or because your hardship. That those are cornerstone of our existence ours, not just my community, but I think all of our indigenous and as well as other modern communities that it's important to maintain. And Repi, I created this graph based on my archival research as well as my interview with the communities. And in my defense, I'll go through and explain all of these, but I just want to kind of give a sort of an overview of what this is about. And each circle represent, so 1 to 9, right? So here in our system of seasons, these are Liefang and Lirik. These are the main two seasons. Now, these are not necessarily wet or dry seasons. This is what they call the elders would say, no, it's not wet or dry. It is it's the calm and rough seasons. And these seasons are also, it's not, because it's base. This is graph I call it the ecological calendar, phase ecological calendar. Because from here, you got the two main seasons, Lereg and Liafang, and then here what we call the Elwelang. These are the seasons within the bigger season, and what we call the Gregorian calendar. And so for us on Faiz, we start in Maichik, because these are based on kind of agriculture, growing and harvesting seasons. So Maichik, Mailep, Tada, La, Hui, Wul, and that's the made up the Liavang season. And then from here, Yul Yul, Mal, Ich, Sarabul, Yormai, Stumur. That's made up what we call the Lerek seasons. And within each season, as you can tell, going all the way here, this is the environment and this is the human activities. So let's say for Wul, this is the time where it's the wind is at the north trade winds, but it's also this is the sunny seasons. And for harvesting and planting certain crops right here on Faiz, this is the time when you harvest and your yams and tobacco. And this is when you're also preparing to plant the taros. And there are varieties of taros from what we have known here as what we call the sweet taro, or different varieties, the Hawaiian varieties, as well Polynesian varieties and the Chinese varieties. Those are newer types. And then we have the giant taros, and we have what we call wild taros, fila. All of these things you'll be planting around this, because that's based on the climate and the weather patterns all different. And so from here, so each meaning that this is when things are fruiting. So this is when the breadfruits and other important crops start fruiting. And so breadfruit is an important crop, so as I put it right here. And within this, that's within the summer months, right? And so I mentioned earlier about how you make food from the knowledge of these food systems. So breadfruit, you pick the fruits, but also knowing that breadfruit only comes during this time. And one tree can produce so much fruit. So, and we don't have refrigerator. One way to do this is what we call mar, which is the fermented breadfruit, where they would preserve the breadfruit so that knowing that by coming around this season, you will now have breadfruit, but it will be, this is what we call the lievang. This is the hard times. Yeah. And this is also the typhoon seasons, right? So this is what you would expect year round every year. So the ancestors understanding this weather, so everything is always kind of by coming around this year, you're preparing, not understanding that these will be changed. There's always storms after the calm days. So that is kind of the way that, when you think about disaster, you think about this common understanding that your resources is also based on your knowledge of making sure that your family are well prepared by making sure that your gardens are well prepared, are planted, and they'll be ready to harvest it. And even with fishing as well, like understanding this is a certain time of fishing for us on Hawai'i. So there's like by March, I go back to here, Magic, this is when you're harvesting certain types of food. And by doing this, you're following the cycles. So by summer or winter, your fishing techniques and fishing method is changed, but also you're also fishing at different parts of the reef and different area of the island. So you're not allowed to fish at this. So by summer, there's certain fishing that you do. And so by following that natural patterns, you're able to allow the fish to regenerate while you're fishing and doing different types of fishing. And this is a way that you're able to sustain all these resources, and you're not just going out and fishing. And and this goes back to those values that I talk about, that they're, okay, when the chief says you don't go here, you don't do that, you listen to that, because there's a reason why you have to listen to it. If they say no more fishing in the summer, you're only going out and you do because the summertime is when you start doing like deep water fishing, right? The water is calm, you're able to paddle out your canoes and you fish. By the winter time, the wind shift. This is the southeast and westerly winds. And this is the time what we call a yangleto. It's a strong wind coming in. And that is the stormy seasons. So canoes you're not able to paddle out, you shift your fishing to different ways, whether you're going on the cliffs and fishing up from the cliffs, or you do other shallow water fishing as well too. So I can go on and on talking about these slides, but I think you got the picture now. And Hamalfaliat. So this here is what we call our Sandmado. These are sea lanes connecting these islands, as I mentioned earlier about the highland system. So these, and I mentioned about the migration that came here within the region. These are still connecting to those all the way up to Pohnpei. And if you heard about the subway system of YAP subway system network, this all the way here from the islands of Chuuk. And even though these are different names of sea lanes, but the Hapilmohol all the way from here to my island of Hawai'i. And that starts from Sarawal, actually from the Chuuk Island, Palawat, and I can't remember the other name of so Palawat all the way to Sarawal, Lamatrik, down to Woliai, and that the subway system is connecting these islands to the main islands of Yap, Uwab. And this is a tribute voyage that brings down gifts and an exchange of gifts from the outer islands to Yap and then Yap to outer islands. And so there's that, but there's also the highland system. Each of these islands, you have these highlands, like my highland is called Mount Lefetch, which is all the islands have those clan system on there too. And how is that relate to resilience? Well, as I mentioned earlier, that's connectivity too. That's a connection through these sea lanes, but also the family system is already set in place. Whether I'm sailing and get lost, and then somehow I got blown into a different island, there's always one family there to help you out. And when you're traveling these sea lanes, even today, you go up to each island, and the first question, you go to the man's house and you introduce yourself. Because you're the traditional, you always have to go to the chief's area to bring your gifts to them to introduce why you're the reason of your trip and why you're there. And they will ask you, what's your highlang? What's your family clan? And you're supposed to know your name of your highlang. And that's an important why as a young kid, those things are taught to you as a young kid. And this also helps with these sea lanes are also important in terms of post-disaster scenarios, because this is, for example, this is Uowolo. This is all the way down to Saipan, Guam, the Marianas. This sea lane was closed until in the 1960s. And that is because there was a huge typhoon that came in and destroyed a lot of these islands. And so one of the ways they had to sail all the way to Guam to find resources. But even without the disasters, like the islands of Sarawak today is still maintain their traditional knowledge. And that is because it's still a necessity. And that's how they would, from Sarawak is an island. It's a small, tiny island with small reefs. And so most of their resources comes from this picolet and pig and pigonut. So this is where they would go sail out to fish for turtles, fish for get clams and other resources to support their community. And within these systems also have like Sarawak, Lomatric, and Ilato, these small different islands, they have a system within themselves. Within hard times, they share resources. And this goes back to ancient times. And all of these connect, and not only just within these small islands, but it goes all the way down to Palau, Guam, and all the way to Kapingamarangi. So that is connectivity through these sea lanes, but also through their family networks and preparation. All right, so my story, recent efforts, as I mentioned, post-disaster. So this is a project, Milamai project, I was involved in it was a response to Typhoon Maysak that took place in 2015. Destroyed the islands, and we were getting, messages from my parents that they needed rice. So what we did actually is kind of collect donations, and then we did what we call Milamai. We launched this project, Milamai Project, getting breadfruits from the global breadfruits in Florida, which has closed down now. Instead of selling breadfruit, they're now selling marijuana. That's where the money is now. And so we were the last customers of theirs. We took every breadfruit that they had. We sent 5,000 to our communities in Yap. This is my mom in the middle. 2017, we planted her tree, and in 2023, she got those fruits in her hands. And this is my two sons. This is actually Micah. And that was Micah brought that breadfruit, helping with planted those things. And then that's my wife, Amanda Uowolo. She's from Alabama. She's my face. Yeah. And her meeting with the Council of Tamol to introduce a project. In order for you to do any project within the Outer Islands, you got to go through them, the Council of Tamol. Give them some beer and coffee, and they'll okay it. And then this is a few years later. We got this is on Flalapiluthi. That's one of the different atolls. And this is the chief of Fai's breadfruit. Now it's actually one of the most productive trees on Fai's producing. That's a mafala. All these varieties that we send were mafala, otea, ufiti, and pu'a. These are all Polynesian varieties. And what is interesting thing about them, and what is really cool, is that a lot of these, like mafala, is dwarf. This is a Psalm 1 variety. And they produce a lot earlier and more often than the traditional varieties. And so it cuts the seasonality of breadfruit. And one of my uncles that I interviewed said, wow, we're so happy about this breadfruit. It's like flour. It'll rain, and the sun comes, boom, they fruit again. That's in their own words. And so these are kind of a thing where when you look at in the future how to respond to typhoons and how to to help is thinking more long term instead of sending rice and canned meats and all these stuff. Those are appreciated. That I'm not saying that shouldn't. That's part of probably could be part of the shorter term of hurricane response. But the long term is being able to continue their tradition as well as planting these trees, because these long term they'll continue to be fruiting and providing food for the community. And the project I'm I'm involved in is with the UHM and U.S. Forest Service, the Upstate Forestry, and we're making the mod breadfruit. So I'll be on a video one of these days, and they're documenting this, how to pick the breadfruit, make the mod. You may recognize some of these folks. They work with the UH. That's Noah Lincoln, and this is Ashley and her interns, and so. We made the process from picking to make the mod, me grading the coconuts, and then that's marbles. And then these are all different dishes that came up with. That we're also using tea leaves as a wrapping them, and you can bake it, you can steam them. And the main ingredients of that is the ulu and coconuts. You can add sugar if you want to. And then the project that I'm involved in right now, and I'm hoping, crossing fingers, that my funding continues on, because it's through the Urban Forestry, Forest Service, Ka'ulunani Urban Forestry, and then through the Micronesians United Big Island. I'm on the board of Ka'ulunani Urban Forestry, and I'm just got off the board of Micronesians United, but I'm still working closely with them, and I'm coordinating this project that to promote perpetuate cultural knowledge, food security, and a healthy community. Part of the project is to purchase fruit trees, breadfruit, ulu, all other trees that are important to our community, and then to distribute it, and also to build partnership with different community organizations. Right now, we're talking with Connections. School in downtown, because they have a land up Kilohana that they're wanting to help our community to help with planting the trees, and to use that space to provide educational opportunities for our youth and as well as their students to provide this kind of knowledge. And part of my talk today is to make sure that we understand that our relationship to our environment, we value our environment when we understand our interwoven relationship with it. And this is right here, we built canoe from safang or kamani and breadfruit. They're handing up the time, so I'll just go through real quick. And right here is this knowing, understanding. It goes back to those environmental knowledge. Before you harvest the tree for canoe, knowing that the tree, if it's on the leeward, has a different structure than the one the tree grows on the windward side, based on how the wind has affected throughout the years, type of soil it's affecting. So this guy's right here is a canoe carver. And then it takes a community to build a canoe. And this goes back to that value of Hovak, coming together to build things that are important for our communities. And also knowing what parts of the canoe, what parts of the trees used for the canoe, and knowing when to harvest those trees down. Because if you're harvesting an ulu, it's also a food producer. So they know when the ulu it's big enough for a canoe, but it becomes not as productive as food source. And so that is a good time to harvest the tree. And then here, the process of building a canoe as well is a communal effort, that when you build a canoe, it involves everything else. The canoe is not, our canoe is made of breadfruit tree or safang, but also it's not made from the entire wood itself. It's all based on different parts, carved separately and then assembled. And to assemble this, you need rope. And so on the island, there's our family that are specialized in making rope. They'll help contribute the rope. Folks are to make the sail. You got to know how to weave that type of sail, that type of weaving that you use for weavings. So, and goes back to also the value of hamal, to care for. So these all, in order to have this in burst, you got to plant the trees, plant the plants, and then care for it to grow. And that's my sons over there planting a hala. That was at Kohalalele down in the. And Nui, my ancestral tree, my name Uowolo, it's the ways of the coconuts. And so it's an important, it's a tree of life. Literally, it is a tree of life. From using decorations to medicinal to food. These are all my pictures of Faiz and my kids. Try to get them involved with the culture as much as I can. It is expensive going back home, $3,000 one-way ticket. So any opportunity you get, I try to get them. So the last time they were there 2024 with their mom. And it goes back to coconuts, used for housing material. The house is put together because the thatch is coconuts. All these ropes are coconut ropes. And the food, husking. In terms of food, we got from coconut milk to drinking coconut to everything else in between. You can make coconut syrup too. And can also be alcoholic beverages. These actually, I was making these and I was selling it in my home on Kilohana years ago. Yeah, I was getting the wine. I was asking all my friends, give me your wine bottles and I'll sell it for $12. And this is when I did my tattoo, celebrating. And the tattoo is it's an ancient art of my community. My mom weaving and then presenting it to my the tattooer from Tonga, Ni, doing all the tapping. And the fabric is made from the banana and how, and that's how you make. And all the coloring is made from traditional plants and noni roots and some other things and all of these things are how is also an important part of our culture as well, from using it as tying the thatch roof to the house and the Ponapeans use them for kava, sakao. It makes the ava more potent. Have you ever had kava? If you try to just chew on the roots, you'll get more impacted because they react to the sliminess. It's not easy to swallow the first drop, but you swallow that and everything else becomes easier afterwards. And savang, the kamani, you use every part of it too, from canoe to ink of tattoo ink and kava bowl that I'm working on right now. And this is from my garden. All the important communities. So that's what I'm trying to do with my project that I'm working on, is to make sure to promote this kind of activities that are important for food security and perpetuating our traditional knowledge, which is important for overall resilience, not just our community, but the larger community. And huchel or lena or turmeric, that's me harvesting those things, and these are all the traditional uses of it: ceremonial, medicinal, and everything else in between. Noni, you all understand it's also medicinal. And halu or ko, the ko tree, that's my arm right there. I used to work on the mountain conservation. I run the forest restoration for Mauna Kea Forest Restoration Project. I got an accident on UTV and then really broke my arm and it got up and it was like that. So I'm using the ko leaf and turmeric as my medicine. And I also use the flower, that's my wife right there. That was during COVID. We were spending time at home and collecting the flowers and making leis. And kava roots. I grow kava, I harvest them, and then I use them during my ceremonial for my tattoo. And this is my boss, Kala Singh. When we were doing the Palila release on the Mauna Kea, we brought Ava as part of the ceremonial to provide a good energy, hoping that the birds were released and no harm. Unfortunately, some of them died, but that's part of the natural process. And we cannot control where the wind blows, but we can always adjust our sail to navigate forward. Thank you very much. Yeah.